You're watching Reality Check. One of the consequences of the terrible impact of the coronavirus in India is that it appears to have dented the near impregnable image of Prime Minister Modi. And this time it's been questions raised, even those who've been sympathetic or admirers of the Prime Minister or the BJP. Amongst the first and most significant was a piece by the US-based scholar Vamsi Jalluri, which has now gone viral. He's otherwise a supporter of Mr. Modi, but he wrote a piece in which, amongst others, he asked the Prime Minister, or rather he said, what will the Prime Minister do with the lie of delusion? And then there was the film actor Anupam Kher, also seen as a supporter of the government. But unusually, in an interview to my colleague Sanket Upadhyay, in comments which have since gone viral, Mr. Kher was actually quite critical of the government. Let's listen.
We should, as people, as I said to you, get angry. And it is important to hold governments responsible for what has happened. Somewhere they have slipped, and it's important that, and it is time for them to sort of understand that there is much more to life than just image building, maybe.
And then there's the academic Makarand Paranjpai, who's the director of the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies in Shimla. Again, someone seen as a sympathizer of the government. Writing in the Hindustan Times, he says, it's clear that Modi's image has taken a beating and that the Prime Minister needs to course correct. Now, it's not just prominent voices, but on social media, ordinary BJP workers and Modi bhakts who've been hit personally by the pandemic have come out strongly in criticism. In Agra, a man called Amit Jaiswal Jain, who's been followed by the Prime Minister on Twitter, died of the coronavirus. His sister used his handle to send SOSs to the Prime Minister and other top BJP leaders. The family claims no help came and they took off a Modi sticker which was pasted on Amit Jain's car after he died. This is what Amit Jain's brother-in-law told the print.
जायसवाल जैन ने पूरी अपनी जिंदगी पीएम मोदी जी के लिए निकाल दी, एक एक चीज उनके लिए फॉलो किया। उसकी गाड़ी में स्टिकर लगा हुआ था, पीएम मोदी जी की फोटो लगी हुई थी, हमने बिल्कुल उस स्टिकर को उखाड़ दिया। ऐसे पीएम साहब की हमें क्या जरूरत है जो हेल्प नहीं कर रहे हैं हमारी।
In Ghaziabad, in Uttar Pradesh, Arun Kumar Goyal, BJP member who lost his mother-in-law because he reportedly could not get her a hospital bed, also went public with his anger against the ruling party. My colleague Mariam Alavi interviewed him earlier today.
सुबह 8 बजे से लेकर रात को 3 बजे तक हमने कम से कम मोदी नगर टू मेरठ एंड मेरठ टू गाजियाबाद एंड फरीदाबाद हमने कम से कम 12-13 हॉस्पिटल्स को अप्रोच किया और जब वो भी होपलेस हो गई थी उसके बाद में रात को हम 3 बजे उनको वापस घर लेके मोदी नगर आ गए।
खुद आप कह रहे थे कि आप बीजेपी के मेंबर हैं।
हाँ बिल्कुल, मेरे पास 4 मेंबरशिप है मेरे परिवार से।
आप कोई पदाधिकारी भी है या फिर मेंबर है?
नहीं, मैंने पद तो कोई नहीं लिया, मैं तो वैसे ही मतलब काम कर रहा हूँ। बीजेपी से तो नियर अबाउट करीब 20 साल हो गए।
और आप बहुत बड़े समर्थक थे सरकार के और मोदी जी के?
बिल्कुल, कट्टर समर्थक कह सकते हो आप।
अगर आपको लगता है आज अगर आपको वोट देना हो तो आप वापस इन्हीं को देंगे आज, अगर आज के दिन एक इलेक्शन हो तो?
मैंने अभी आपको बताया ना कि मैं भी सोचूंगा इस बारे में कि वोट दूं या नहीं दूं। हो सकता है कि मैं नोटा का बटन दबा दूं।
All right, joining me tonight on Reality Check, we have with us Vamsi Jalluri, Professor of Media Studies, University of San Francisco. Amy Kasman is here, South Asia Bureau Chief, Financial Times. Sanjay Kumar, Psephologist and Professor at CSDS. Ashutosh Varshney, Professor of Political Science and Director, Center for Contemporary South Asia at Brown University, is on the show with us, as is Geeta Bhatt, Political Analyst, supports the RSS BJP. Thank you all so much for being here. Vamsi Jalluri, let me start with you because, as I'm sure you figured out by now, your piece did make waves here, and it was a very strong piece. For those who haven't read it, here are some of the things you said. Apart from the lie of the delusion point that you made about the Prime Minister, you said he who lived by the camera is now upstaged by the camera. The world is not seeing a Vishwa Guru or any Guru. So snap out of the selfie days now, sir. Lose that melancholic Bahadur Shah Zafar long white beard. Listen, learn, lead, or let someone else do that job for you. This is strong stuff, Vamsi Jaluri. What triggered this? What prompted this?
Apologies, yeah. I feel like it is not just millions of our family members who are gasping and suffering. It is the truth itself that has been gasping. And this has been building up even before the coronavirus crisis hit and crippled the world. I believed and hoped that this government and Mr. Modi would be given a fair chance by the world media back in 2014, because I felt this was a moment when the people's aspiration was for decolonization, for indigenous, sustainable, nature-respectful ways of living, which is what I believed the philosopher, Mr. Upadhyaya, wrote in Integral Humanism, and what Mahatma Gandhi wrote in Hind Swaraj. And that was the sort of rhetoric I saw coming from Modi ji sometimes, and I'd hoped that's what he would do. But in the last 7 years, what has happened is an appropriation of that kind of grassroots energy into a copycat American right-wing propaganda model. And the last few weeks have been disastrous because, you know, so many times you could see this government looking away from truth, trying to pull the wool over its sympathizers and supporters' eyes on so many issues on social media. And, you know, I did my best course correcting within, you know, this side of the, readership, as well as calling out the global media for where they could be more precise. But the last few weeks have been a complete breakdown of reality when they don't admit even the reality of what is happening all around them. Then I have to say this delusion is gone pathologically.
Okay, so you're saying that your disenchantment is not recent, because I was just going through some of the things you've said. I could find interviews and pieces that you've written going back to 2015, where you said, I think this was in response to a New York Times piece, you said, relax, Modi is not a Nazi. Several experts simply don't have a clue what the Prime Minister is talking about that gets ordinary Indians so inspired.
Indeed. I would say that, you know, the reason he got elected and re-elected, and there's a possibility he may still get re-elected in spite of this current obvious, disaster and fiasco, is because he has harnessed that energy of disappointment, of this feeling of being completely neglected and unjustly treated for decades by deracinated urban elites. But so I was hoping that this would be a time of truth, especially when there's a pandemic like this, when Mother Nature shows us that left or right, ultimately truth is truth.
Right. Okay, left or right, you're saying truth is truth. Sanjay Kumar, have you been coming across any numbers, because you do so much research and polling and you get, ground level analysis, either any numbers or anecdotally, anything that indicates that there has been a waning of the Prime Minister's otherwise, always high popularity because of all of this?
Unfortunately, I don't have any numbers. At the moment, it's very difficult to do any kind of a reliable survey. But I do get a sense that Prime Minister Modi's popularity is on the decline. I think it is declining day by day, not even one single day when we can say that Prime Minister Modi's popularity is on the halt. It is declining. And the main reason is that there is a huge gap between what government keeps claiming, all their spokesperson keeps claiming, and what people on the ground feel every day, every hour. Running from one hospital to another, trying to get a hospital bed, trying to get an oxygen. So I think the huge gap between what government spokesmen are propagating day and night on the television and on other media and what common people are facing in the day-to-day life, that is damaging the image of Prime Minister and damaging the image of the central government to a great extent.
Right. Amy Kasmin, I wanted to ask you, because of course, now, as everyone is saying, the reality is so stark that even media, which has traditionally been favorable to the government here, has started speaking up. But the foreign press, along with, of course, independent Indian media outlets, have been calling out the mismanagement for a while. And we are going to actually put up on screen some of the very damning headlines that we've seen from some of the biggest names in terms of the foreign press, New York Times, BBC, all of that. And you also now have magazine covers like, Outlook and India Today have got very dramatic magazine covers talking about the missing Indian government. You just got a piece out in the Financial Times saying that the handling of the pandemic has diminished Mr. Modi. Have you been getting a lot of love on Twitter after it came out?
Actually, I have to say that I've been taken aback. We are prepared that if you write stories that are maybe critical of government policies or, suggesting that not all is so well as the government would like it to be, we do see a lot of pushback from Modi supporters and the kind of the machinery of that. But I have to say that I've actually been taken aback by what seems to be this outpouring of anger on social media towards the government and a feeling that the government has not lived up to popular expectations in the middle of this crisis. I think it's been a period of intense anxiety for Indians going through this, people getting sick, people not knowing whether if they need it, they can get medical care, scarcity of vaccines,
Sure.
I think, there is a lot of intense emotion out there, and that's what I got the feeling of in response to our piece.
Right. I'm just coming to you, Ashutosh Varshney, in a second. I just want to go to Geeta Bhatt first. Geeta Bhatt, publicly the BJP may still be coming out and taking strong, at times almost not just defensive but offensive positions. But as we are now seeing, and we played some of these instances, you now have people who are sympathetic to the government, die-hard bhakts of the BJP and Mr. Modi, coming out in criticism. Are you also privy to such conversations and exchanges? Are you worried? And are you, by the way, yourself starting to now feel disillusioned with the way everything has been handled?
Well, Vasuji, these are definitely unprecedented times, and this is a crisis of a century. And all those, who have lost their near dear and loved ones, their distress, their anger, their frustration, it is something which is very much understandable. However, also, Vasuji, it is important to understand that it is not just those who are close to BJP that they have lost their near and dear. COVID has hit everyone across the political class, whether it is Congress Party, whether it is CPIM. CPIM's top leadership has lost one of their, very close, close relatives. So it is something which has, which has come across to people across the society who have been hit, and this definitely.
I'm asking a different question, though.
I am coming to that. But the fact also remains, Vasuji, that
I'm asking you whether you're cognizant of the fact that there is so much public anger and disillusionment against the Prime Minister. This is very unusual. He's always had this sort of Teflon coated image where he's able to ride out virtually any crisis. Are you seeing that beginning to crack for the first time? Does that worry you?
I am coming to that. See, Vasuji, since 2014, when the people of this country voted out the Congress and allied parties, and Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister, since then there is a section of organizations, people together who 24/7 have been working on diminishing the image of the Prime Minister, and whenever there have been any challenging circumstances. And this of course is a crisis situation, and this has been used by some people to single out and blame the top leadership. Now, it is very important to understand. We also need to look at facts and figures. Srinivasanji, please give me at least 30 seconds to speak. One needs also to look at facts and figures.
No. I'm coming to facts and figures. Geeta ji. Geeta ji, we're not debating here, right now, we're not debating the numbers of the crisis. We're talking about the fact that there are now multiple voices, not just necessarily those who might be called the usual suspects, but even those who might be sympathetic to the BJP or who may be admirers of the Prime Minister, like you just heard Vamsi Jaluri, so many others, who are starting to raise questions. Ashutosh Varshney, you had made an interesting case in the piece you wrote where you talked about this idea of great suffering that comes at the hands of strongmen, whether it was Mao era China or India under Modi. But do you believe that, unlike demonetization, this time the pain has been far too great, far too personal, and for the first time those cracks are beginning to surface?
Right. So some degree of suffering is completely consistent, history tells us, with the popularity of a leader and with the idea of national glory and national power. But colossal suffering of this kind that we are witnessing now is inconsistent with the idea of continuing popularity, at least at the same level. In fact, the other example that comes to mind is 1976 India, which is when forced mass sterilization began in North India, and virtually every sector of society was affected. And a year later, Mrs. Gandhi was thrown out of power, as you'd recall. I think the comparison with Mao's China is an important one, but Mao did not have to submit himself to a democratic electoral verdict. So Mao could get away, incidentally, with 45 million deaths. 45 million deaths during the Great Leap Forward, and 3 million deaths during Cultural Revolution. And India probably is going to reach 2 million deaths in the next 2-3 months or so. May even cross that if there is a third wave coming. But in a democratic setup, that's truly colossal suffering, affecting every sector of society. So the way all of North India, not South India, in 1976, the way all of North India was affected by mass sterilization, forced mass sterilization, and the suffering inflicted by that campaign.
A repeat of
that is beginning to happen now in much of India, not in South India, but in much of India, including Western India. So this much suffering can I don't think democracy will not be able to tolerate this much suffering, I think.
Okay. Let's see. Vamsi Jaluri, some would say that, it's all very well for those like you who've been admirers of Mr. Modi to now sort of come out and be critical, while there's been so much mounting evidence much before this, which doesn't just have to do with the mishandling of a pandemic, but which has to do with so many other things: the hollowing out of institutions, the assault on civil liberties, the growing volcano of hate speech and bigotry and prejudice and so much else. So why wake up to all this now?
Well, Srinivasan, I'm not a political fan of any one group or person. I am a fan of the truth in the media specifically. That is my object of study. And I have to point out that even at this time, the media is not off the hook. Media is not off the hook because it is precisely because of the media's systemic, and I have been documenting this painstakingly for several years, objectively, despite attempts to appropriate many of my ideas and work by, well, unfortunately, political groups. And I have been critiquing the absence of objective reportage and the growing demonization of one group of people and their culture and traditions for many, many years now. And at that particular time period, my interpretation of the mandate that supported Mr. Modi in 2014 and 15 was that he is trying to move beyond the hate, and he himself, as far as I can see, does not stoke that kind of hate speech or Islamophobia. I think he made an attempt to be inclusive, but unfortunately, it has not been real.
No, That's simply not true.
There is nothing but an image. There's nothing but an image.
I'm sorry to jump in here, but it's absolutely not true to suggest that Mr. Modi has himself not stoked hate speech or has been above communal dog whistling. There are multiple instances where he has in fact done exactly that, especially on election campaigns after becoming Prime Minister. And as for his party and his leaders and ministers, it's just off the charts. And they've actually faced no consequences for it. So that is a big problem. But that is aside to what we are talking about here currently, which is, as I said, to do with the fact that there does appear to be now questions over this sort of Teflon-coated image. Just very quickly, right at the end, Sanjay Kumar, I know, it's very hard to say how it works because public mood, politics in India is so fluid. But do you anticipate down the line political consequences of what we're seeing right now, or is it again just it's too early to say?
Well, I would say it's too early to say because suppose, imagine a situation in the next 6-8 months, things are back to normal. Even after that, there would be 2.5 years left for the Lok Sabha, the big Lok Sabha polls to take place. And I don't underestimate the potentiality of the BJP's, the leaders. They can turn around the things to their favor. They can come up with, fancy schemes, etc. So I don't underestimate the potentials of BJP in turning around things to their favor. So it's very early to say what is going to be the political fallout of this crisis for 2024 Lok Sabha elections.
Sanjay, how do you anticipate?
Right. Last word from you.
Yeah, with me?
Yeah, I know. UP is actually much closer and that would be the first test. But right now, I don't know how much time I have, but just very quickly, if I can just get a quick last word from Geeta Bhatt that, Geeta Bhatt, we are starting to see, just from your own answer and now the government's attempt to say, let's try and do a positivity drive and hold positivity camps and all of that. Again, do you think this is a mistake to refuse to acknowledge that errors have been made and that there is a need to correct, rather than just see every criticism as some kind of conspiracy to malign Mr. Modi and to, to sort of seek political gain?
Vasuji, definitely in this crisis situation, there should be collective responsibility of all, and I am not talking about just in terms of government, state government, central government, but also of ordinary citizens, of people like you and me, whether it is pharmacists, whether it is bureaucrats, whether it is businessmen. All of us have a collective responsibility, and we have seen, the COVID protocols, they just went out of the window. People stopped wearing masks. They were having,
so the Prime Minister takes no greater responsibility than the ordinary citizen.
No, it is, the point is that when the kind of a crisis we are in, at this present time, it is very important that all of positivity and the government, state and central governments, all they need to be collectively looked at. I want to just give one small example.
Okay.
In politically, Mamata Banerjee on February wrote a letter to the central government where it said that we are going to give free vaccination.
When you say the crisis we're in, we're going over, so I'm going to have to jump in. Okay, I'll have to jump in there because the crisis we're in, something you keep repeating, one of the reasons why there's been so much criticism of the government and the Prime Minister is because many believe the crisis could have been avoided or it could have been much less had there been a better response. But anyway, it's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you all so much for joining me on Reality Check. We're completely out of time. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.